Hello and greetings to all. I haven't done a video in a while, so I figured I might as well hop on since tis the season for the holidays and stuff. This topic's been on my mind particularly because of the holidays and how, particularly as Mexican Americans, we tend to abandon our diets, if we have any at all, during the holidays, and we have buñuelos, pozole, menudo, tamales, you name it. Now, in my book, Reconstructing a Brown Identity, one of the things that I do discuss is the need to have a better sense of cuisine. Um, a lot of us, particularly Mexican Americans, since that's the experience I come from, as well as Native American, we have a lot of our foods which we consider traditional. Northern Native Americans have fry bread. As Mexicans, we have menudo, tripitas, which are kind of like chitlings but fried instead of boiled or whatnot. And we consider them traditional, therefore to a certain extent sacred. But in reality, what these foods were peasant foods. That's all it was, kind of like with soul food, which was foods that were put together by the slaves, by the African Americans, in earlier times, out of whatever the colonizers would hand down to them. These were foods that were easily and readily available. After they would use the other parts of the animal, they would hand down these undesirable parts, the intestines, the stomach. As a Mexican, we have buche, which is stomach, that is cooked in with chorizo, which is also a gland, all types of different parts of the animal, which at one point the Spaniards pretty much discarded as waste. So they're pretty much giving us food like when we were growing up, there was a man who would pick up the food from the schools, whatever was thrown away from the trays by the kids. You throw the food away and then you put the tray away so it can be washed. And he would feed it all to his pigs, all together. So the pigs were very stout and healthy because they were eating all this garbage food anyway. But that's pretty much the same thing we're doing. These food items were given to our ancestors as waste because the colonizers, the Europeans, regarded our ancestors as mere beasts of burden. There was slavery at the mines, for silver in northern Mexico. Actually, more, central Mexico. There was all types of slavery going on, all types of indentured servanthood going on. So when we continue to eat these foods, we continue to retain that peasant mentality. I actually thought about this, and just to give you an excerpt of my book, my father and I had gone to a Mexican local restaurant and we ordered some menudo. And at the moment the girl puts a menudo plate on the table, I'm seeing all the floating chunks of stomach meat and some lard, and I'm just like, wow, this is what we're eating. And then I flash back to when I was working at a grocery store. I'm in line, and there's this Caucasian lady, bragging about what she just bought. She bought kombucha, she bought chia seeds, avocados, all types of hipster foods, which we now call. And then I'm thinking, as colonizers, the ones who at one point fed us these disgusting items, which we now consider our soul food, our staple foods, as they are eating these eclectic foods, many of which our ancestors contributed to the world, domesticated, we continue to eat the peasant foods. We continue to eat menudo. We continue to eat all this garbage in reality, which aside from being delicious and scrumptious, yes, it's delicious. A lot of stuff is delicious and scrumptious. But is it good for you? Now, this is not to be preachy, but we essentially are what we eat. And when we continue to eat yes, it's a romanticization of tradition. We've eaten tamales every Christmas, so it's only right. Well, when we continue to glorify these foods, we are not getting to the root of how they were instituted, which is peasant food, once again. Now, how can we salvage tradition? As a matter of fact, the gym where I attend, which is a couple blocks northward from here, the gym owner, was giving me some tips as to working out and food, and then he pauses and he says, you know what? One of the biggest challenges whenever I coach or assist Mexican Americans is getting you all to eat better, because golly, y'all eat some fatty foods. And I'm just sitting there like, well, that's pretty much our cuisine, and I am a bit offended, but let's face it, that's exactly what it is. It's poor in nutrition, it's fatty, it's redundant. We have 2 carb sources, 2 protein sources. What does that do? Fatten the belly and everything else we don't want to fatten. So how do we salvage our foods? Well, decolonizing our diets is all about decolonizing everything. Decolonizing our mind, decolonizing spiritually, our religious views that were imposed upon us to keep us in servitude and subservient. We throw that out the window. Everything that we have taught to eat as tradition, as culture, discard that out the window. And that is one of our main objectives when we decolonize. Let go of everything that was used to keep us subservient and appended to useless and harmful traditions. Yes, a lot of items are indeed ancestral, but they have been tainted by all that the Europeans contributed, brought to the table, so to speak. It's a great idea for an essay. Stay tuned. That's what they brought to the table. The addition of flour, enriched flour, bleached flour, whatnot. Lard and ridiculous amounts, from chicharrones to manteca and all this other stuff. So we can certainly decolonize our diet. So I'll go ahead and make additional videos as to how I myself, as a Mexican American, Chicano, Native American, am decolonizing our diet. Now, for our northern brothers and sisters of northern Native American tribes, I love powwows, and yes, I do love fry bread. However, it is not traditional. It has been traditional since these past 500 plus years of occupation, but let's go before that. Let's not start our timeline from when the Europeans arrived and altered our reality. Let's start our timeline from before that, and only then will we successfully decolonize. So let's decolonize our food as well as our spirit and everything all together, because fry bread is the same thing. Lard and flour was easily and readily accessible to Native Americans, so guess what? It's a staple food of Native American culture, but our Native American cultures go way back, bro. Way back, so let's reclaim that. And with this, I'll leave you. It's a beautiful sunny day, even though it is the 26th of December, and everybody wants for it to let it snow. Well, our Father Sun is out in all his splendor and all his majesty, and we are happy as children of the sun. Blessings.